John Samuel Celestin, a brother, a son, died at the hands of the Ocoee Police Department, all because he was suffering from a mental health episode. Welcome to Good Trouble with Melissa Myers.
Melissa Myers, Melissa Myers. Good trouble, yeah. Good trouble, yeah. Good trouble. You're watching Good Trouble with Melissa Myers. Good trouble, yeah. Good trouble, yeah. Good trouble, yeah. Yeah. Good trouble, 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 yeah.
In our communities, there is a huge lack of resources when it comes to those who are suffering from mental health. Along with that, across our country, we have a lack of education within our police departments on how to deal with individuals who are suffering from mental health. This episode is going to speak specifically about John Samuel Celestin, who I will refer to as Samuel as his family affectionately calls him. Everyone who I have spoken to in the community about this tragedy has no idea of what occurred in April 2019. Let's take a look at the news report covered by investigative reporter Darlene Jones from Channel 9 News.
The leading taser manufacturer is responding to our 9 Investigates report. Now, we told you last week an Ocoee family believes that the video playing behind me shows their loved one dying after police tased him repeatedly. Investigative reporter Darlene Jones sent questions to the leading taser manufacturer to try to get some answers. She joins us live. And Darlene, the company has warned repeated taser hits can cause serious injury or, in worst case like this, death.
Yeah, Greg, and the company insisted to us, though, that taser is the safest and most effective form of non-lethal force for law enforcement to use. But you're right, they have warned against repeated stun drives like what we saw in the video, something that happened to John Samuel Celestin when he was encountered by Ocoee police.
If you move again, you're going to get shot. You understand me?
Seconds later, an officer tases John Samuel Celestin again, this time directly into his back for 20 seconds. His body doesn't appear to be moving as he lays face down.
You all right? Your knee's all scuffed.
And you can see now he's in a prone position, restrained with a hobble. The officers finally realize he doesn't have a pulse and rush to perform CPR.
Are you serious? I got the AED right here.
The 33-year-old had been tased at least 4 times. His mother thought when she called Ocoee police, they would help him get mental health treatment because she told the dispatcher and first responding officer about his schizophrenia and bipolar disorder.
I don't think they believed they were dealing with human beings that night.
She didn't know her son stopped breathing feet away from her doorstep.
They came in line to tell me that they brought him to the emergency room. They're going to send him to the behavioral center, everything. This is what they came back to tell me. And I even told the officer, thank you for helping my son.
No state agency tracks how often tasers are used or how often they may result in death. Axon, the leading manufacturer of tasers, told us that in 25 years since its device was developed, there have been 26 confirmed deaths causally related to the use of a taser, which directly occurred from falls and fires. This out of about 4.6 million deployments. That doesn't account, though, for people who died following encounters with police where a taser was used.
The multiple tasers that they used on Sam, and then the handcuffs and hog tying him when he's down, that's what really shocks me.
The company has warned law enforcement about the risk associated with taser use, and within this warning to law enforcement posted on its website in 2018, Axon noted repeated, prolonged, or continuous applications may contribute to medical issues or could increase the risk of death or serious injury.
It's just not right. And it shouldn't be happening, and it shouldn't happen. It should never happen again.
The family, of course, as we told you last week, has notified the city of Ocoee of its intent to sue. The city of Ocoee is not responding to requests for comment regarding that because of that pending litigation. The family has also asked the state attorney to reopen its investigation, which cleared those officers. We have not heard back on whether that will happen. Reporting live in Ocoee, Darlene Jones, Channel 9 Eyewitness News.
Now that you're caught up on what happened to Samuel Celestin, I want you to watch next as I went before the City of Ocoee's Commission to discuss this tragedy.
Good evening, Commissioners. As many of us are aware, John Celestin was suffering from a mental health episode and died while being tased by the Ocoee Police Department. I'm not here to discuss the particulars of the incident. As we all know, the city is facing a lawsuit by the family, and we are not allowed to discuss any particulars. I'm here to discuss what the city's actions are going to be going forward, as there will be more mental health calls. With our nation enduring financial crisis, loss of family members, it has taken a toll on our citizens' mental state. There is an increase of suicides, mental health episodes right here in Orange County. First responders, especially our police officers, should not have to deal with mental health crisis calls alone. That's not fair to them. While they are trained to protect and serve and provide EMT services, they are not trained to deal with someone who is suffering a mental health crisis, and that individual can be very unpredictable in their behavior and can show various levels of erratic emotion. My suggestion is that our police department have mental health professionals on call to assist our officers when being dispatched to someone who is having a mental health episode. Mental health professionals are licensed professionals fully trained on how to de-escalate and handle mental health crisis. Now, it was discussed tonight how we have a healthy budget. Our small city can set the bar and do what's right and correct the wrong to prevent another life being taken. As I know, no one wanted Mr. Celestin's life to be taken. A person's mental state is very fragile, as we are all one life-changing event away from something that can alter all of us from our mental state, right? So I would like to hear from the Commission your thoughts on my suggestion. Thank you.
Now here is the response that I received from Ocoee Commissioner Larry Brinson of District 1, offering his support.
Mental health. I'm gonna comment on Ms. Meyer's comment regarding mental health and our first responders. I too believe it's unfortunate and it's unfair that we're asking our first responders to deal with mental health issues. But unfortunately, right now that's the state that we are in America, and we have to do something about it. I do believe that there are some people out there and organizations, to include municipalities such as ourselves, that can be trailblazers in this area. But for us to do that, we need a commitment from all walks. And sometimes you will find that we want to do something that's important, such as providing mental health counselors and partner them with first responders. But I've actually sat on the board recently where we're finding that there's a challenge finding mental health counselors, mental health professionals who are able to do that which we're talking about. And so I would encourage anyone that has a plan, that has a solution, that knows of anyone who has a group of people who would like to come together to have this conversation and move this needle forward, because it is something that's not going to go away. And just like active shooters, people being either injured and or unfortunately becoming fatalities behind being shot even though they're having a mental episode. So I encourage you to continue to fight that battle. It is something that is admirable, and I look forward to assisting you in that, because we do have that to deal with.
Now, I learned currently the Orlando Police Department and the Orange County Sheriff's Office is doing a 1-year pilot program where mental health professionals are dispatched to calls to those who are suffering from a mental health episode. Already it has received positive results. Now, I also learned that the city of Ocoee can participate in this pilot program, but they will have to foot the bill at a tune of a couple $100,000. While that may seem like a lot, I want you to keep in mind that the city of Ocoee is currently building an over $20 million new city hall. And during that same commission meeting on June 15, 2021, it was said by a representative from McDermott Davis, who provided the city of Ocoee's financial audit, how the city has a healthy budget. Listen to the details of that budget.
Total city assets exceeded liabilities by $222 million at year-end 2020. Net position increased by $7.6 million. Total debt decreased by $3.6 million. The general fund, which is probably the most important fund relating to the city, is increased $2.6 million to $26 million. Unassigned general fund balance increased to $19.5 million. That's the money that's free to spend without any sort of encumbrance or assignment for other purposes. The water and wastewater fund net position increased $2.1 million.
It is a great honor to bring to you all the family of Samuel Celestin. Mom, how have you been since Sam's passing?
I don't feel good at all. I am crying. I'm crying every day. I miss my son every second. And I just cannot understand that I lost my son that night, when a simple call for a mental health crisis was made to 911. And when the officer came, we were very precise on that to ask if it is a mental health team unit that is coming. And he said, we don't have that there. But I believe at that time, he will have to call whatever team that can come and help my son that night. But instead, he went and just killed my son. And my son is dead. And Melissa, I won't see my son anymore. He's done. He's gone. They killed them. And I don't know. I don't know. I know that I make a lot of effort not to be depressed, but I don't feel my life could be the same, because my son and I, we were bonded. We were together. He was my partner. He was my friend. He was everything in my house. He couldn't go outside because of the anxiety, whatever he got, but in the house, he functioned very well with me. And then they just took him. They just took him away from me for no reason. No reason. He was not sick. He was mentally having a crisis.
Yes.
That easily can be managed by people who can recognize, who people that know what they are doing. But the police officer came with all the power they have and just killed my son. Just killed my son. Just killed my son. And make me understand that they solved the problem. They brought him to the ER. and then they're gonna bring him to the behavioral center, when it was a big lie. It was a big lie. They killed them outside, and they never came to me to tell me. Instead, they came to do cover up of a crime, take pictures, ask if I'm gonna press charge, like he was alive. So I could have. It looks like the guy came and he knew he's gonna destroy my son. Because I cannot understand how he organized all the lie right after the death. But the anger that he had at the beginning when he pulled his taser and start tasing my son, at that time, I did have a feeling of experiencing the police brutality. And that was my fear, to call police when my son was in crisis. It is the worst. The worst thing can happen to a mom. You call to help your son, and then you lost your son in the hand of the police. I couldn't believe that.
Yes, ma'am. I know this. None of us can believe it, especially after watching the body cam footage. It's disheartening and it's scary. And it's not right that you and your family had to go through that. Joanne, I have a question for you. How difficult has it been in the last 2 years to seek justice for Sam?
Well, for 2 years, we really didn't know what happened or how Samuel passed away. What we did know is that he was gone, and instantly we were told that, once we did find out that he died, that this was under FDLE investigation, which is internal investigation, because he died in the hands of the police. And from there forth, we were not prelude to any information at all. And what we had to do for 2 years was actually hire an attorney and for us to actually go through the legal, loopholes in order to even just to get this body cam. And 2 years later is when they released the body cam to us. And finally hearing and seeing what happened to my baby brother, Samuel, 2 years later, it's something that I can't describe. It's, to say that the initial death was shocking, this is like another death. It's another set of death, because here you are, you're asking a family to be kind, be quiet until we're done with our investigation. And then when we finally hear about what happened to my brother or to see it, it's also telling the family how he died doesn't matter, and so it's like having to grieve all over again, but in a very different way, in a way that is mystifying, that this injustice can happen to someone you love, and it can happen to any human being, and there is nothing you can do about it. So,
okay, Joanne, I'm sorry. So they asked you to be quiet and not to say anything to the public because it was under investigation?
No, when I say that, I mean to say they do inadvertently asking to be quiet in the sense that no information is released. We did not see the body cam for 2 years. We were not given any information about the autopsy. The coroner office would not give us any information. Either the police would not give us information. Nothing was released. So in a lot of ways, it is quieting down the family and making them think that, you know, we're working on this and we'll get justice and we'll give you, you know, we'll find out what really happened. So that's what I mean by that.
So pretty much they already knew what happened because they seen the body cam footage.
Absolutely.
And they held that information from you guys until that footage and provided it 2 years later.
Correct. That's correct.
Mm-hmm. What does justice look like for you, Mom and Joanne, for Samuel?
Justice will be to hold them accountable. Those police officers that killed my son, they need to be accountable of their actions. Because in the medical field, when we kill someone, we are accountable for that.
Right.
And I believe there is nobody above the law. They are not above the law. You cannot come and just believe that you can kill civilian like that, and then you just walk away.
Right.
No, 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 no. No, 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 no. Justice will be served.
Yeah.
I believe Samuel will have justice.
As for me, myself, who's been in the nursing field for over 16 years and who practiced as a nurse practitioner in an emergency room setting, I've served this community for a very long time. My entire nursing career started and is still part of the Central Florida community. And I think about that my hands have probably touched a friend or a family member of one of these officers.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I've worked in a lot of systems all over.
Yes.
And to think that myself as a nurse practitioner and my mother as a physician, that we have cared so much for so many in this community and will continue to do so in a loving way, that when it came to my brother, that he was seen as a criminal. He was treated, he was tased, he was hogtied. And when he needed, you know, oxygen and he needed CPR, proper CPR, he was not given those things. And it was very difficult to learn that, to see that here I am making a simple call, which I considered a simple and a very clear call, that this was a mental health crisis, and that the individuals who came in are considered service workers of the community as well. So I'm thinking I'm calling a partner, a brother, you know, a brother or sister in equal service of serving this community. But instead, what we ended up getting was people who came in with these officers came in with their prejudices. They came in already with very little care for what our family was going through or for what my brother as a patient was going through. And they handled him in a very disgusting way that caused him to lose his life. And when he was losing his life, they refused to save him. And they refused to do the measures that they have legally under oath has said that they would do, right? To preserve life as much as they can, right? And so it's been very difficult. And what justice would mean for me and for my family is definitely for those officers to, number one, not be in the streets. They do not have the heart nor the judgment to be out there still working and collecting our taxpayer income, okay, as income. They need to be trialed. I ask that Monique Worrell upholds her own words as she was running for office and got my vote, my mother's vote, and probably a majority vote, which put her on as a state attorney to look at this case, right? And to really take the time to speak to us as a family as well. That would be justice, you know, to explain to me how this is acceptable. How is it acceptable for me? How is it acceptable for the next person, my neighbor who lives here in Ocoee? How is it acceptable for any family to have to go through this, to have to be censored for 2 years, to have to be, you know, to have to just navigate such a terrible system, and then when the truth does come out, to be ignored. You know, so you know, justice is that they need to be held accountable 100%. They need to be trialed under the law. That's correct. They need to be trialed under the law. They need to be off the streets. And we, as members in the city of Ocoee, as residents, we all should be protected. We all should be protected. Our loved ones should be protected, especially our vulnerable loved ones. The city needs to put into place standards that will protect our family and our loved ones, and even ourselves if ever we are in need of help during a mental crisis.
I completely agree with you. My last question, what changes do you think needs to be made within our local police departments when it comes down to dealing with someone who is suffering from mental health?
You know, again, as a medical provider myself, in emergency, I have dealt with tons of cases of people coming and being brought in safely into the emergency room while they're having a mental health crisis. One that I have seen many that was a lot worse than what I observed that evening with my brother. And so, you know, the city needs to put funding into not simply, you know, training their officers, but also putting the proper people who really are passionate and care about this movement. You know, if somebody doesn't care about the individual and they don't care about mental health, don't just tell them that they got to do it, because they just really aren't going to have the heart for it, Melissa. That is something that you really have to be passionate about doing. So they need to have those proper professional people in place that are experts in mental health, that can help de-escalate, that wish to do those things so that we can protect our city. Also, you know, having legislative wise and policies in place that protect our vulnerable population and helps families to have a smooth transition during these crises, you know.
Yes.
So we're talking about, you know, possibly having a different number to call, and so that we know that it's very clear. I spoke to the operator myself when I made that call. I made it very clear. I disclosed all important information about his mental health status. Maybe she should have been calling someone else as well, right? On top of it, and not just leave it to the discretion of only the officer, right? Maybe we need to have things in place in that way. I believe that the city needs to also be asking the members of the community to come together and to speak up on it, because I can only imagine what other families are really suffering through this, you know. But when the city does not hold officers accountable, you can't expect change. I don't care how much money is being poured into training current officers and all that, but you're not even holding them accountable for the things that they did do. How? As a mother, how do I expect to teach my child if I am never going to hold them accountable when they do wrong? You cannot do that. You cannot internally change culture, internally change mindset if people are not held accountable, and these officers need to be held accountable. So number one change in order to move on within the system is to go ahead and hold these officers accountable.
Before we end, Mom, is there anything else you want to leave us with?
I'm in a stage now after 2 years, having everything blocked from us, no report, no camcorder, nothing. And finally, we have them, and they were waiting until the DA office cleared those officers before giving us the camcorder, before giving us all the documents. I beg the DA in place now to reopen the file and to look at, because everybody sees it wrong. How come they can see it right? Open the file and look at the camcorder again and analyze it, assess it, and tell me that my son will get justice. Nothing can give me my son back. But it was not a dog that they killed, because even dog, when you kill dog here, they persecute you. My son was a child, a nice man, a nice gentleman. He didn't do anything wrong to the system. It is the first time he was with an encounter with a police. And then that first time they killed them. That is so unfair, so unjust. So I need justice for my son. I really need justice for my son. And he deserves justice.
Yes, he does.
For me, Melissa, my final word is that I ask that the community really comes together, and really help us bring awareness about this. But most importantly, we as a family have formally asked Monique Worrell to meet with us as a family, to discuss the injustice that we have to bear every day in regards to Samuel Celestin. And we have been ignored. We have not heard any response from her office at all. And this, as a Black woman, as a mother, as a sister, asking another woman of color who is in office, who had promised me, who had promised many Black women in this community that she will obtain the highest level of justice when it comes to our community as well, our vulnerable community of the Black community as we are.
Yes.
And to live this and realize that now that we are knocking on her door, that she won't even look through the peephole to even acknowledge our family and what we have gone through. And so it is extremely painful to have to bear that thought. And I just want to be very, very clear that as a family, we deserve a meeting. We at least deserve a meeting with the state attorney, Monique Worrell. And we are asking the community's support for that. We are asking that, the changes that we need to have on a national level, on a city level, all of those things have to happen. In order for them to happen, it's meeting with families like us. This case is extremely important. There's so many aspects of this case. And it's extremely painful just to think again what other people will go through. And we want to avoid that. We want to avoid other families having to go through this. And I believe that Monique Worrell can make a change. She can uphold herself if she were to just take the time to actually meet with us as a family as we continue to advocate for Samuel, but we also are advocating inadvertently for the community as a whole.
Well said, Joanne. I want to thank all of you for taking the time and speaking with me, allowing me to be a part of Samuel's story and seeking and fighting for justice for him, because it's deserving. Everyone you have heard here from the family, their desires for their son, their desires for their brother, that they want justice. This is the time where our community needs to come together and voice our concerns. I need you to take the time and think about if this was your son, if this was your brother, your friend, your uncle, family member, period. What if you will want someone to fight for them as well? This concludes this episode for John Celestin, Samuel Celestin. Good Trouble with Melissa Myers. Take care.
Yeah.